Hi, this is Jody Grinwald, and welcome to the Today is the Day Changemakers podcast. Thank you so much for either watching via YouTube on the YouTube channel or for downloading. I want to let you know that this week's guest is Michael Pizzano. His title has changed since this interview, so I wanted to share that with you. He is now the CEO of Kindred Hospital in South Florida. We're so excited for Michael. Congratulations on his promotion and the amazing things he's going to be doing in South Florida at Kindred Hospital. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast. The more people that listen, the more people can hear the messages of these amazing change makers and all the lessons that they have to share with our audience. I look forward to seeing you again and enjoy this episode with Michael Pizzano. Hi, everybody. This is Jody Grinwald back again for another episode of Today is the Day Changemakers. And we are here to talk with those who are breaking through the status quo, leaders in the community, and those who are really making a difference, mentoring others and really shaping the world. And today I am so happy to be sitting here with Michael Pizzano. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hey, Jody. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad. I was thinking about how many years it's been since we connected, and it has to be like 4 or 5, I think, at this point.
Yeah, no, I'd say about that. Yeah.
So Michael has an amazing bio. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I definitely want to pick out some things here. We met when you were the CEO over at Kindred at which facility was that? St. Clair's?
Morris County. Yeah. Kindred Morris County was known.
But now you have been named the Division Vice President of the Northeast for Kindred Hospital Rehabilitation Services. And you're also the President of the American College of Healthcare Executives of New Jersey. So that's a whole mouthful there. So I kind of want to uncover and learn a little bit more about both of those titles. So can you share?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, originally this is my second stint back with Kindred, and, truth be told, everyone, you live and learn, and I was given another opportunity, and some of it was good, some of it may not have been as good, but I always found that I had a home was at Kindred, and kept in touch the entire time, and lucky enough to be able to come back, and this time is on the rehab side, which is an area that I was very, very interested in, and my main focus in the Northeast and parts of the Midwest is partnering with other health systems and creating acute rehab units and potential joint ventures as well.
That's amazing. And then what about the American College of Healthcare Executives? Tell us about that.
Yeah, because I didn't have enough things to do. I figured I would tack that one on. That group, that board is amazing, and I am ultra lucky to be a part of the American College of Healthcare Executives. What it is it's, we do a lot of educational sessions, particularly in New Jersey, and, focusing on those that, they may be students right now, they may be senior level executives. We have about 950 members, and it's my board, through education, through diversity and inclusion. We just had our annual meeting. We just did a mini Congress. And we also just, when COVID started, we did this webinar series, which was just, super timely for what, people needed to hear, what healthcare providers needed to hear, what they were going through, to let them know, people are thinking about them, keep your head up, we're going to get through this. Just a lot of good stuff. And again, a tremendous board.
That's amazing. And then I think on top of that, you're teaching too?
Yeah. Yes, I teach at Centenary University and St. Elizabeth's University. It's now St. Elizabeth's University, not just college. I teach master's business administration and healthcare administration. Both schools are awesome. Treat me really well. Keep giving me classes, keeping me even more busy. And I love it. I mean, to me, kind of something similar to what you're doing. It's an opportunity to give back. I've had such an awesome career so far, and to be able to, mentor students, no matter what their age, younger or older, just to let them know, what I've gone through and take it outside of the book, focus on what's the real world like, in healthcare or in business.
No, that's wonderful. But a question for you is, where did you think you were going to be when you were thinking about careers? What was your thought process?
Yeah, I was lucky enough just to, if you saw one of my LinkedIn posts, I got interviewed by Penn State, my alma mater, and they asked me the same thing, and I tell them I had no idea what I wanted to do in college, none, zero. I think I switched my major a handful of times. I liked architecture, so I'm like, well, maybe we'll go that route. And then I really like sports medicine, so I'm like, well, maybe I'll go that route. And then I always kept business in mind. Um, but what most guys at that time, or gals at my age, if you didn't know what you wanted to do, maybe you wanted to be a police officer. So I said, you know what, I would love to be a cop, and I got an internship with the United States Marshal's Office.
Wow.
In Pennsylvania. I think I was one of 2 in the whole state to get that, which was awesome internship. And so my career path was going to be U.S. Marshals. That was my game plan in life. And obviously that didn't pan out. Not because of anything wrong, but because of another opportunity that presented itself at Atlantic Health System, where I was just working as a part-time EMT, and then got promoted through the company. And I live vicariously through one of my best friends who's a federal agent right now. So he gets to tell me, the not top secret, but the cool stories that I wish I was able to be a part of. But I can't complain about the path my life went.
Well, that's great. You get to at least hear about what and that way you're not missing out, right? That's fine.
There you go.
I think the thing about, I have young kids, well, they're young to me, but 22 and 19. And the fear is always, oh my gosh, I have to make this decision of where I want to go to school. And it's so expensive. And if I make the wrong decision, then I have all this college debt, and wow, it's huge to decide where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And I don't talk to a lot of people who started and then ended in the same place. I think it's and yeah, you have to be open to what the journey kind of brings to you. And some people get, as soon as they have another thought process of what they want to do, they just stop, because they like, I don't want to switch gears. And now I feel like I'm flailing. And so, what I love about your story is you just kept going, whether it was architecture, whatever, you just allowed yourself to feel and go and do what you felt comfortable doing.
Yeah, and it was unique too, because I was at Penn State during 9/11. So I think that in more ways than one shifted, as it may have some others, shifted my attention to what can I do to help, and in this, or help for the future, because obviously I was a student, but I immediately joined our fire department at Penn State. I got my emergency medical technician certification. And then, like I said, interested in working for the government, federal agency. I think that had a big impact on me. And if, it was a terrible day, but, if that didn't happen, it makes me wonder if I would have tweaked my career a little bit towards, just getting that EMT is what got me into healthcare ultimately.
Wow. That's what we don't realize is, I've named the podcast Today is the Day, because the fact is every day makes a difference in our lives along the journey. And we don't own any other day than the day we're in. And that day, as you said, just kind of hit you and changed the course potentially. We don't know, but it seems as if, like what you're saying, is it changed the course of your life. So when you're open to what the journey brings, and you're listening to the signs and you follow through with them, look where you are and look at all you've accomplished, which is amazing. And you and I met when I was working as the vice president of development for the American Lung Association. You were the chair for the board in New Jersey. And so that was it was great working with you back then. And we had talked about different things and different things that have impacted our lives. And you had shared a story with me along your amazing journey that really 5 years later, whatever the time is, because I can't figure it out. But 5 years later, I still think about that story. And I don't think you knew while I was working there, I was trying to figure out too my own path and what I wanted to do. And I had gone back to school to become a certified professional coach at the time. And I was just trying to figure everything out for myself. So listening to you, you had no idea that while you were sharing that story, that you were kind of mentoring me in my thought process, because you'd never know what's at the other end of what you share. You just don't know. You know, people don't
Yep.
always tell you. So could you share a little bit about that story? Because you just don't know who it might impact as well.
Sure. So, ironically, it's I never expected that story to get the traction that it did. It's been seen and read by thousands of people around the world. And what's interesting was when I wrote it, no offense, I wrote it for me. I wrote it for me because I wanted to remember the time frame of what I thought at the time was my lowest point in my career. When you're let go from any position, it's hard, and I had I think my daughter at the time was 1 month old, maybe 3 months old, maybe 3 months old, and I had a son too. And, so I was like, all right, well, let's document what's going on here for myself, because let's face facts, it'll happen again, probably. And it did. It did happen again, but I would revert back to that. And the comments that I got from really around the world from that, and if anyone's interested in reading it, it's on my LinkedIn. It's called My Long Walk Home. And why I called it My Long Walk Home was because when I was let go, I had no idea what to do, where to go. I had a company car at the time, and the company offered to give me a ride. Of course, they're a great company, but I declined, and realizing I declined a ride, and I live 25 miles away. So I just started walking, and at the time I didn't even think about how long it was going to take me to get home. And I just started making phone calls. And in the story, it documents who I called. One was, of course, mom. One was my wife. One was my best friend. And I mentioned it in there because, my mom told me to shut up. My wife didn't believe me. And my best friend used an explicit word and hung up on me. So obviously, no one thought that, it was true. I think they got the point when, they heard some tears flowing, quite frankly, afterwards. But, I in those 3 conversations that I had, it was who surrounds you, who supports you, and, who can you rely on? I have great parents. I have a great wife. I have a great best friend, although I can't tell him that or else he gets all conceited. But, they put me immediately back on track with what, we're going to get through this. This is a blip. You're one of the terms I was told was you're marketable, and it was a tough time. But that long walk home, which, by the way, my wife did pick me up after about 1.5 miles. So it really wasn't a 25-mile walk, but in that 1 mile and change, I had some conversations that just put me immediately back on track. And, if anyone's listening to this, I've been unemployed. You can beat it. It is a tough time right now, but, just rely on your support structure. And if even with this, I've chatted with so many people, just grabbing a cup of coffee, and just chit chatting, with some ideas and things you could do. I don't make any money on it. I don't charge anybody. To me, it's a giving back kind of thing, because I've been lucky enough to press forward through this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you're so lucky to have the support system, right? And right now we have, with the COVID situation, a lot of people are out of work unexpectedly, very unexpectedly. A lot of them don't have the support system, and unfortunately, depression and a lot of other things. You being in the medical industry, that unfortunately, numbers are going up for depression. Numbers are going up for leading to addiction, and what would you say to those people? Because, you were in a great position at the organization that you were at, and it was a surprise. So for many, they're in that same situation. Some of them have been in organizations for 20 years. I mean, I have personally met and know people who've been in organizations for 20 years, but the organization is struggling right now due to the COVID crisis. What do you tell those that don't have that support system?
Sure. And I've talked with folks a lot about stuff like, not only because of COVID, but yes, COVID is this is a crazy time. But where I like to tell folks is, what are you doing to network? Who is the folks that you're, what groups are you part of? Like, I'll use American College Healthcare Executives, awesome group. We, even with COVID, we're doing virtual meet and greets right now. So for people in healthcare that are just looking to, get in touch with people, with healthcare executives, it's a great opportunity because, these executives are in the same position as me. They just want to help and give back, and then maybe, you prior to COVID, we were, meeting at, like a restaurant and having like a happy hour. And, you could be sitting next to president, CEO of a major hospital here in New Jersey, and they would just give you their time, because, maybe they were in a position that you were in, or, they know that, you're here to try and grow yourself, to try and learn. So, networking, I think, is very key. I'm also a very firm believer, it's really all who you know in this world, one way or the other. And, just from, having a quick conversation, you don't need to be best buds with somebody, but maybe they can, point you in the right direction, or maybe they know somebody that can help you. Never stop keeping in touch with folks, because you never know, you could be, the top of the company, and then the next day you could be out the door. And that's just the way, unfortunately, the business world, and even more the COVID world right now works. So, my message would be, right now, hang tough. If you don't have that support base, seek out opportunities that are virtual right now. There's so many virtual opportunities out there just to get a part of groups, where you can, well, no matter what your profession is. In this case, I'm lucky enough to have the healthcare group. We just had this mini Congress where there were emails and chats flying back and forth with, oh, I'd love to learn more. Oh, can I chat with you offline? Just those simple little conversations is what can, elevate somebody that maybe is looking for something. Maybe you get into, in my case, a healthcare system. Maybe it's not the ideal job you want right now, but get you back on track to be able to, get to that next level.
There's two things I wanted to mention. You mentioned mentorship before, right? And I feel like a lot of people my age, they don't necessarily reach out to others to say, hey, will you mentor me? Because we feel like, at my age, I'll say, feel like I should be a mentor right now. I shouldn't be asked to be mentored. But I don't think, and what are your thoughts on this? I don't think you're ever too old to be mentored. I think,
no, never.
Right? So I actually went up to somebody about 5 years ago and said, I love what you're sharing. I want you to be my mentor. And he just looked at me and he was totally stunned that I said it so bluntly, right? Because a lot of times most people don't even know they're somebody's mentor. It's just conversations that happen naturally. But as soon as I said that, the next time we met, he handed me like 4 books to read. The conversation changed, and he came to our lunch with 4 books for me to read, and said, okay, there's going to be homework on these books, and I want to hear what your thoughts are. So sometimes even formalizing who that mentor is in your life, or finding the mentor, because as you said, you're teaching, and what a great opportunity it is for you to be a mentor. Do you find that people just, yourself, they don't really ask, right, for somebody to be their mentor? They just kind of have those conversations. Do you think it would make a difference if people actually use those words and had a little bit more of a formal conversation?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer, no matter what your age, never stop learning. I mean, I think since I graduated Penn State in 2003, I haven't stopped my education, even if it's things like graduate certificates. Of course, for me, I'm lucky enough that I had worked for some systems that were able to pay for a lot of my education, so I utilize that. But, I personally find that, does your company offer a mentorship program? College of Healthcare Executives, we right now started in October 1st, we started a formal mentorship program, because exactly what you said, like, we want senior level executives. We want to sign them up. These guys and gals, they're doing it, just out of the kindness of their heart. They're not making any money on it. They want to give back, and they're known as mentors.
Right.
We also have the mentees. I do it at Penn State still every year since I graduated. I'm a mentor for a Penn State student for a couple months, just to, get them on the right track. But I was also very lucky personally to grow up with phenomenal mentors. And maybe it was mentor by title because I was a part of programs through work. So it was known that you're my mentor. So if I, keep reaching out to you, sorry, you're going to have to talk to me because it's part of the program. But they were the ones that got me thinking. I had a mentor in one of my first jobs that this is another interesting turning point in my career was, what do you envision as your next steps for me, for my career? And, as anyone would say, if, let's just say, you're a manager level employee, you want to be a director, right? Because that's the next level. This gentleman at the time happened to be a senior vice president of the health system. And he said, why not my job? And I said, okay, I think you're a little crazy, but thank you for saying that. That's kind of how I left it, was I didn't think why, because at the time, for me personally, it was, no, I want to take my boss's job, right? But that's what got me thinking, if this guy who's been doing this for a long time can say that to me, why can't I do it? Why can't I elevate myself to the next level? I'm having a successful career so far, why not shoot for the stars? And that's something that I always held on to, and I appreciated that conversation.
I think a lot of people, they think about those things and they're like, how am I ever going to get there? How is that ever going to happen? And right away, when you put that thought process in your mind, you hold yourself back, right? From being able to, if you can't envision it, it's not going to happen. It just, it doesn't just happen naturally. You have to work towards it. Some people are lucky, and they get jobs without having to work too hard for them. But others, they feel like when they feel like they can't, they stop trying. And then that's definitely an issue, a problem. I also wanted to talk to you about the fact that you had said that that long walk home, although it wasn't long, it was only 1.5 miles. What was the temperature outside in this 1.5 mile walk that you were taking?
Also, it was October, so it wasn't super cold.
Okay.
But I'm a hockey guy, so I have ice in the blood, so that doesn't faze me.
That's good. That's good. So, we mentioned COVID, and because you're in the medical field, I wanted to just talk about that for a minute. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? How are things going in the hospitals that you're a part of?
Yeah. So, obviously right now we're in the midst of another surge. And, from our area right now, in our space, we're doing the best we can. We do great work. We are, a huge piece of the healthcare continuum, when it comes to getting folks better and getting them home. So, we're managing, but it's hard. I think we all learned, no matter what company you work for, we learned a lot of lessons the first go around. I think everybody is much more prepared. My wife is a nurse practitioner, and she was at the time sent back to the floor, so during the first surge, and which was tough. I mean, the horror stories that she would come home and tell me, she's a tough woman. I give her a lot of credit. It was quite frankly warlike. But I'm not the super clinician, but what I could tell you that I see is I think things are a little different. I think a lot are getting infected, it seems, which is a good thing. And again, I'm not a doctor, but it seems like the mortality rate is a little bit lower. It seems like the infection rate is higher, but also that testing rate is higher. And I don't not a firm believer in making anything political, but, wear the mask, socially distance, at our hospitals, and, they're doing everything possible to keep our employees safe. So I think as long as we follow that, we'll be able to get by and get through this, and hopefully a lot of news on vaccines. Hopefully, the vaccines will come out and work, and we can get past this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I know it's very difficult. It's difficult time for people, those who have it are, horror stories, and unfortunately I've lost people, which is awful. But there's also that mental and emotional piece that's going on as well. So that's the hard part. And then adding in loss of jobs. The other piece I did want to go back to real quick too is when you mentioned the networking. A lot of people also do not network or do not feel like they want to waste their time networking in situations where they feel like it might not be applicable to them, right? So
Mhm.
I've had people say, well, I run a statewide not-for-profit council for the NJBIA as a consultant. And a lot of people are, well, I'm not a nonprofit. Well, it's not just nonprofits. We have for-profits in there, and you don't know who you'll meet, because just necessarily, Mike, you might have someone in your LinkedIn that you're friends with that I might want on my hit list. They're on my top list to meet and be in touch with. But if I don't meet you, I might never meet that person, because you could be a connection. So, I feel like everybody, needs to think a little bit outside the box of, maybe I have to take that hour, 2 hours to be listening to something we might not be interested in, but I meet at the end of that, right, could be valuable.
Absolutely. And that's, you hit the nail on the head there. That's something where, if I ever chat with folks, and to try and give some guidance and assistance, that's one of the things I say is, hey, when you get the chance, take a look at my LinkedIn. I'm not going to say I'm best friends with everybody on there, but a contact is a contact. And for me, I probably would not have accepted it if I didn't know them or work with them. And vice versa, I would assume. So, if I had a contact, and, it's at, let's just say, X hospital, and you're looking to do whatever, maybe that's the right person. Hey, I'm happy to reach out, and at least put you in touch, and, allow you that opportunity that maybe you did apply somewhere. Maybe that resume is sitting somewhere. Maybe I can help you get that resume to the right person. And that could be anybody. That's not just me. Anyone can do that. But you're right. If you don't make that first step and meet the first person, whether it be in person or now virtually, and virtually it can be done. Don't throw in the towel on it. This world is going to be really interesting, once this is all done, in regards to, things that are done virtually. I mean, a lot of meetings where you're flying across the country to have a 30-minute meeting, maybe it's going to be done like this in the future. So, it'd be interesting to see what companies tweak their thought process there.
Yeah, I think the times are changing too. I'm also CEO of a not-for-profit, and we held a concert that with people from California via Zoom. And it absolutely can happen. It's not as much, you think it's not going to be as much fun, but I'll tell you, it felt like I wasn't in my living room, even though I was. You try to get yourself into the screen just like you're watching a TV show. It's the same type of thing. So that's been, yes, virtual. I think we're going to have a lot more of that in our lives. Also, I've started a mastermind group called Today's the Day Changemakers, and I feel like, just like the name of this broadcast or podcast, and I think getting involved in those types of things are important too, right? Joining groups, would you say, on LinkedIn and just looking for masterminds out there would be helpful as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, any LinkedIn group, one of the schools, Centenary, asked me to do a chat, on things about LinkedIn. I don't work for LinkedIn. I don't get paid by LinkedIn, but I do agree that it's an awesome platform, to just, grab some of those groups, because, somebody may post something that you may not have even thought about. I mean, everyone's like, I asked my kids as an example, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, obviously my daughter wants to be the nurse, like my wife, so my son's like, well, I want to be a doctor. And I'm like, well, good for you guys. You're setting the bar. But by the way, there's a ton of other medical professions out there, and I think that no matter what your age, some folks maybe I'm using the medical profession as an example. Some may just be focusing on doctor and nurse. Well, that's it. No, there's a ton of other things that you can do, and a ton of other positions. And, maybe you're someone that's looking for that job and you never thought of it, because you didn't know it existed. So, use the platform to come into some potential new opportunities or things you didn't even think of.
I never thought I'd be a nonprofit ever in my life. I've spent 16 years in nonprofit, but I was working in the fashion industry in New York City. What a major change as a manufacturer's rep. Here I am, nonprofit is my thing. So it's just, our journeys take us all over. So I wanted to ask you this before we end too, is that, what would you say, if I only knew then that I know now? What would that be?
Yeah. Well, so I've had some great leaders that I've worked with and for. I've had some not so great. I think that when you have these great leaders, jot down a lot about what they say, because they're great leaders for a reason. And I can mention one of them to you that we both know, that is a fantastic leader. And he was one of the ones that gave me this mindset change because of a lot of what he told me. And he's probably going to listen to this, but one of the things was control what you can control, right? I think that in my first job, I tried to do everything. I tried to be the one-man show. I had a couple hundred employees that were working for me, and I tried to do it all. And if I learned that advice, control what you can control, I think that that would be a takeaway that, well, it is a takeaway that now I carry with me, right? There's things that are just outside of your control. But, take note of a lot of, these great leaders and things that they're saying, because they're in these positions for a reason. I mentioned the, why not my job?
Right.
Why can't you do my job? Take note of that, because people are saying things for a reason, and use that as a fuel for yourself to grow. But even as a fuel for yourself, that if you needed to pump the brakes a little bit, and take a step back, listen to this guidance. And, I would love to, we'll see, maybe one day I'll write a book about a lot of this stuff, but some of these great leaders and the things that they've told me, they're the reason why I'm able to excel my career. My current company, at the top, the leaders are fantastic. I mean, take a look at them, read up on them. They're awesome. But use personally what, anyone you've come across that's a good leader, just take a minute and think about what they've told you. And maybe jot some things down, because I think they're saying things for a reason that hopefully you can use later in life.
Absolutely. And, there's leaders out there that are inspirational, and there's leaders out there that lead by fear. And that's, what you can learn from as well. Because if you move up and you become a leader, you also know what not to do. And
don't forget where you, my thing, don't forget where you came from. Everyone at one time was a low man, and when I was CEO, one of the things I would say is, I don't care if you're the doctor or the person that's cleaning the toilets. Everyone's got a role here. Everyone has, a purpose. Everyone needs guidance to succeed. It doesn't matter what your role is. And, leading by fear, in my opinion, that's just not appropriate. I've had leaders that lead by fear, and, karma does come back, I think, on some of them, if they do that. But again, what I learned was control what you can control. Anyone can lead by fear. Anyone can do whatever they want to your career, but, you're the one that's in the driver's seat. So just, control what you can control.
My father had a saying when I was leading large teams, and he said, be careful how you treat someone when you're responsible for the way they eat.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
So if I had to let someone go, which unfortunately I had to do way too many times in my life, it's always done in the kindest and the way that it should be done, so that there's respect in there. Because you know that moment is so pivotal to them, because of course they're going to think about the way they're going to have to eat after this conversation. And so
Right.
that to me, it really changed the way I managed as well, because he was led teams, large teams himself. So something I always like to share, because I don't think people think about it like that.
No, that's very true. And and if, in my opinion, if the leader is doing their job and they're giving you the tools to succeed, and giving you the support, and not to say every idea you have is great, but there's allow you to do your job. Those are the leaders that I want to be a part of. And I've been lucky enough to have a lot of good leaders.
Yeah, in one of my last interviews, I interviewed the CEO of the Marfan Foundation, and he said they're doing a Zoom moratorium in the middle of July, January. I can't even talk, January, where they're just nobody's allowed to be on Zoom, right? So when the leader gives back and says, no, we have to have balance. I feel like the employees want to work that much harder because of the fact that they see that there's caring from the top.
Absolutely, yeah. Lead by example. It's something I would, even in the hospital when there's garbage on the floor, pick it up. You're no better than anybody else. We're all on a team together. Any success that I've had in my career, I credit my team. I mean, you're not a one-man show. You can't do it yourself. Your team should be acknowledged, and and that's something that I try my best to do as a leader.
So, Michael, thank you so much for being on with me. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad we got an opportunity to chat. Any closing thoughts that you might have?
Thank you for doing this. I wish you luck with this endeavor. I think it's awesome. I think that the concept of today is the day. I think that's a great idea, and I think it's something that is absolutely needed right now. And when you asked me to be a part of it, to be able to be a part of a platform where you can help, especially during a time that is tough. If somebody can take something away from this, great. If it's not me, maybe it's your next person or the previous person that you have, but you're giving them a platform. So thank you for that, and maybe one day we can circle back on here and see what's going on next.
Absolutely. We'll definitely have another chat. And that is the mantra. Today is the day. You can't go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. And if we continue to think that way, we'll make sure not to give up on opportunities that we can make happen right away. And sometimes we just have to get out of our own way. And that's why mentorship, and that's going to be a common thread. I think it's really important that people reach out to people like yourself who continue to be a mentor to others. So thank you for all the work that you do. And I'm so glad we connected, and I'm sure we'll be chatting again soon for a follow-up interview. Thanks, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks, Jody.